Hey y'all, James here. A little bit different content today. This has nothing to do with my projects, mostly. I wanted to talk. This is something I find really interesting. I do this quite a lot, looking at top games from within a year on BGG using the rankings, right? And so I know, I want to preface this conversation with there's a lot of discussion around about if the ranking system is broken and how it can be manipulated, and people come in and give things rankings before they've played the game. And so there's a lot of that, right? But I think when you're looking at, say, the top 1,000, you've got to have enough of the community involved playing the game to reach that level, because a heavy part of the algorithm is how many rankings total a game gets in general. And so I feel like there's definitely some gamesmanship that can happen within the system. However, I feel like once you reach that top 1,000 point, I think the math kind of evens out. Again, that's just a total shot in the dark, just my opinion. But I do think overall, you can use this for interesting conversations, and I think that's what this video is going to do. So I'm going to just go ahead and dive right in. So we're going to start with, again, this is the last decades, the last 10 years. So we're going to start with 2012. So 2012 is we're going to kick this off. And, what you're going to see on all of this is there's some phenomenal games, right? These are phenomenal games. And so, by the rankings in 2012 on BGG, Board Game Geek, these were the top 5 games. You've got Lords of Waterdeep, which is number 83 overall. Robinson Crusoe, 81. Android Netrunner, 66, which I've just played recently. Something I always wanted to play, but, I just never had the people around that were interested to play it and got to play it. Probably just a whole night. I think it was a whole night of just Netrunner. Tried several different decks. Played with Phil and from 1 Minute Board Games, and he's such a nerd on this stuff. Loves it, and he had lots of decks I could go pick up a deck that he already pre-constructed to try, which was great. Zolkin at 53. Love Zolkin. One of those gears. That game's just so good. And Terra Mystica. Absolutely love Terra Mystica. Definitely one of my favorite games ever, just period. It's probably in my personal top 10. I just really like it. Love playing all the different factions and trying different things. It's just really, really good. And if you're a person who doesn't like luck, Terra Mystica, you're going to really obviously like that. It's very straight and narrow. All right. Well, that was 2012 or 2012. That's a long time in the future. 2012. So looking at 2013, the fifth highest ranked game of that year. And you're going to see, I think it's interesting, do we have some years that games were just better? I don't want to say better. Or it was just a really good year for games that year. Because these are five bangers right here, right? Nations at 191. Russian Railroads at 108. Eldritch Horror at 100. Eldritch Horror was one of those games early for me, early on in me onboarding into board gaming. I got exposed to and really was like, this is a crazy experience. Nothing like when you're first getting exposed to hobby board games. Something like Eldritch Horror, if that's like one of the first 5 things that you're shown, it really just opens your eyes to the opportunities and what's out there. And, for me, it was in like 2015, 2016, kind of that range. So, yeah, awesome. Caverna, number 40. Gotta love Caverna. Such a crunchy, good game. Love it. And then another game that would 100% make my top 10, Concordia. Absolutely love Concordia. It's so elegant. I think it's still like a master class on elegance and just how fluid that game plays. It's just so good. Obviously, lots of people or lots of games have taken tons of inspiration from that game, and it's still amazing. So that's the top 5 games from 2013. 2014, Patchwork at 107. Love Patchwork. I still play that all the time. It's probably me and my daughter's favorite game to play together. I think I've got 3 different versions of it. I've got the Halloween version and the Christmas, and then the standard. Fields of War, 78. I still have never played that one. I need to. There's going to be several on here. Once I've compiled all this information and put it all together, there were several that I was like, I need to go back and get that played. I've never played it, so I need to play that. 5 Tribes at 76. That's another one for me that was an early game in my onboarding of the hobby, and really, really, really liked that game. Star Wars Imperial Assault, 59. Amazing game, amazing experience. And then Orleans, number 30. I probably, I like it. Orleans. There's lots of different ways that people say that, but number 30. And for me, Orleans is, if it's not my number 1 game of all time, for me personally, it's definitely top 3. I'm going to have a couple that bounce around, and it would be, I've never made any videos like that of my top games of all time type of thing, but Orleans has got to be in the top 3, and I'm going to pronounce it different every time I say it, just for reasons. So obviously 2014 was a great year for games. That's a really strong year, but I don't know that it beats 2015. Look at the rankings on the top 5 of 2015. 2015 may be the peak, right? It's definitely the peak as far as rankings go. But look at these games. Food Chain Magnate, 35. Viticulture, this is the Essential Edition, but just Viticulture, 32. Seven Wonders Duel, 19. Through the Ages, 13. Pandemic Legacy Season 1, number 3. When the 5th best game ranking-wise of the year is the 35th best game of all time, this has got to be a contender for the best year in board games ever. Maybe I should just change the title of this video to, was 2015 the best year of board gaming? I think people can make that argument, right? Because even if you go look at the top 10, the rankings for the 6 through 10 are phenomenal games that are really, really highly ranked overall. So, and by the way, if you ever want to do this yourself, right, just go into BGG, go into advanced search under board games, and then on the year, you just put 2015 to 2015, get it to output that, right, and then go hit the descending down arrow on the ranking, and it'll put them all in order. And so it's pretty easy to do, so you can kind of look at the stuff yourself if you want to. And obviously, these rankings will change as things move up and down. This is how the rankings are as of today. But for me, I still play Seven Wonders Duel. I still play Viticulture. I've never played Food Chain Magnate. I need to get that one played. And then Pandemic Legacy Season 1 was probably one of the coolest experiences for me as board gaming. Like, it just had so many awesome moments. What I would call player experience. It's something that I talk about a good bit when we're designing our games. But like, what are we trying to make players feel? What do we want them to be doing? And, Pandemic, that at that time for me and my play group was just phenomenal. So that's 2015. 2016. Okay, so you're like, well, James, if your criteria was that the top 5 started at 35, then what about 2016? So I think these are our 2 big contenders that would duke it out, right? So in 2016, you've got A Feast for Odin at 22. The 5th best game in the rankings from that year is the 22nd best game of all time. You've got Scythe at 16. You've got Great Western Trail at 15. Star Wars Rebellion at 8. And Terraforming Mars at 6. I mean, these are all bangers. Played them all. They're all great games. What is my personal... Actually, what's funny, I think my personal favorite out of all of those 5 is A Feast for Odin, which is the 5th of the lot. But love Feast of Odin. So good. So good. Feast for Odin. And it's funny, Terraforming Mars for me personally is probably my least favorite of those 5. Still really like it, but it's a, you know, I know I'm going to get some hate mail. I'm going to get hate comments on right now. Somebody is seething and they're like already typing a comment of how wrong I am. Hey guys, games are subjective. Okay. For me personally, I like it. It's just out of those 5, it's probably my least favorite of the 5. So that's 2016. That's got to be, when you look at those, if you look at those 2014 to 2015, it's got to be close. 2017. Again, you can make an argument. So how about this is the argument? 2015 to 2017, is this the 3 best years in board gaming ever? Because in 2017, you got Too Many Bones as the 5th highest ranked game at 37, but then Gaia Project is 11. So you've got 3 games and then essentially a 4th game just right outside the top 10 of all time. So Gaia Project at 11, Spirit Island at 10, Twilight Imperium 4th edition at 5th, and then obviously the number 1 of all time, Gloomhaven. So when I look at these, Too Many Bones, I've read the rules like 5 times. I've set the game up, but I've never actually sat down and played it. I got to get that done. I've never actually played Gaia Project. Everybody said it's really close or very familiar to Terra Mystica. So I'm like, well, I love Terra Mystica, so maybe I don't ever get around to playing it. I still need to play it so I can compare it. Spirit Island, I am so bad at that game. It's so hard. I think I've played it twice and lost both times. That game will beat you down. You as the kids say, you got to get good. I've still never played Twilight Imperium. Ross Thompson, you got to help me out, bro. I gotta get an invite. I gotta get that played. And then obviously Gloomhaven, the number 1 monster, which is, you know, well deserved. It's such an incredible game, an incredible system, an incredible amount of content. Just check, start checking all the boxes. And that's 2017. 2018, Underwater Cities at 44. I really like Underwater Cities, and it's one of those games that I think I've played twice. Really liked it both times, and I'm not really even sure why we haven't played it more than twice. I don't know, but like it a lot. Everdale at 31. Root at 28. Root is gotta be a top 10 game on. I bet Root would hit top 10 on games for a lot of people. It's such a good game, such an incredible experience. You know, it's just so good. It's just so good. Nemesis 18. Nemesis is definitely high personally on my list. I love the experience that Nemesis gives because it doesn't matter who you're playing this with and when you're playing it. It always has these epic conclusions. And man, that is just so good for a board game to be able to deliver that experience, that it has those big epic conclusions. And then Brass Birmingham, the number two game. I was actually surprised when I saw that. I was like, I knew it was highly ranked, but I guess I forgot that it had climbed so high. That Brass Birmingham is the number 2 game of all time. And obviously in 2018, that puts it at the highest ranked game. So 2019, obviously a really solid year for gaming. You got PAX Premier 2nd Edition. I've never played that one. I've got Marvel Champions 36. Barrage. I've never played Barrage at 34. Clank Legacy. Played a lot of Clank. Played several of the Clanks, but I haven't played Legacy, and I've heard a lot of good things. So after seeing this, I've got a list. I need to put together a list of the games off this video that I need to play. So Clank Legacy is going to be there, but Legacy stuff's so hard to get to the table because now we've got to play it a bunch. And our play group, Shu, Christina, Tom. Shu is he's a big fan of getting games in and then getting them off his shelf of opportunity. And so we play a lot of new games a lot. In Wingspan 25. Wingspan, can't say enough good things. Such a solid, awesome system. Obviously I saw the nesting box. Shu just got the nesting box and it was enormous. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I hadn't realized that many expansions have come out for it, that it's going to have that much material. But 2019 was obviously a very, very solid year. I think obviously for me, Marvel Champions is probably my favorite from that list. 2020. Number 5 is On Mars at 49. Lost Ruins of Arnak at 29. Eclipse Second Dawn 23. That game is definitely in my top 10 of all time for me personally. Love Eclipse. It's just, again, it's an experience. You're going to hear, now obviously this is my personal preference, but you probably see it in the types of games that I make as well at Druid City. But like player experience is a big thing for me. I like games that make me feel things, and Eclipse, it just has that epic, there's just epic conclusions. There's some real epicness about building out your fleet and how you're going to build it this time compared to last time. And then this Second Dawn edition, the Second Dawn edition is just so over the top. It is just gorgeous with all the materials and the components. And obviously I care about this sort of things. Dune Imperium, number 12. What a phenomenal game. And how quickly it rose in the rankings to get all the way to 12. And then it had a lot of, obviously a lot of comparisons to Lost Ruins of Arnak that year. And they're within just, a handful of rankings from each other is interesting. It's interesting, I think, that Dune, between those two, Dune is probably my more preferred game, but they're both, I would love to play both at any time. Obviously, I like the conflict and the experience that conflict gives you in Dune Imperium, which I think kind of, for me, elevates it slightly over Arnak. But again, you're looking, and I think that looks like it's played itself out here in these rankings on BGG. 29 and 12, though. I mean, that's nuts how highly ranked those are of games all time. And then obviously Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, number 7. That packaging for Gloomhaven is my preferred Gloomhaven, personally. Much easier to get through, much easier to get to the table, more compact. I love it. I love it. And obviously you'll see that inspiration in Tidal Blades 2, Rise of the Unfolders for us, the game that we're going to be putting out this year. So that the book, the flip book maps, I think, are here to stay, right? Like that's just so much easier for manufacturers to use than the old tile system. It allows you to have custom art that you can use on each page. It's just such a big advantage. And then it's much easier to, like in our case, and obviously Jaws of the Lion, as you add rules to a game as you go along, it just can come alongside the map or near the map or things like that. So it's really interesting what Jaws of the Lion did, and now all of us standing on its shoulders between Gloomhaven and Jaws of the Lion, and now Frosthaven, what Isaac and his team has been able to do there. So big props. 2021. And I think these last couple years you're going to see the rankings are much higher, but just because they haven't been out as long, so they haven't had as many entries. So I would say probably starting in 2020, going to 2021, and obviously 2022, these games, the really good ones, will probably keep rising a little bit further as more people get to play them and then put in their ranking. I don't know. Ark Nova is probably not going to get much higher than 4. Maybe it does. I don't know. We'll see. Can it keep creeping up? Maybe so. But the 5th best game of 2021, according to the BGG rankings, was Sleeping Gods, 69. And then Great Western Trail on here again with a 2nd edition. I actually played the 2nd edition last night with the expansion. So that was my first. I love the game. It's a beautiful design. It just does so much for the dopamine in my little rat brain. Just feed me. But I am awful at this game. I cannot score for anything. I don't know. I'm usually pretty okay. Like I don't really care about winning, but this one you're like, why can I not get higher? Why am I getting like 56 points? What am I doing? I got doubled up, Somebody at the winning score is like a 119. I'm like, I got 56. What's happening? But it's ranked 51. Cascadia, amazing game. It's probably one of my favorite games. It's obviously, what am I going to say here? Probably my favorite game in the last couple of years for sure. Like we've played it a ton. Love its simplicity, its elegance. So easy to play. it's just a great game. And it's gorgeous. Beth Sobel killed that art. It's so gorgeous. The Crew Mission Deep Sea. This, I think, is such a great game to talk about as far as like taking a system that existed and improving it to the point that the first game's, for me, almost obsolete, because this does it so much better. The way that you dole out the cards and then your mission points that you're trying to get, it's just so good. It's so good. And it's so dynamic. That's the thing. It's very dynamic. Where the first game, or the first edition, first iteration, was very, I would say, more linear, right? Like, you get these things exactly. And the way that this comes out, and you're dealing out the randomness of the cards, and then you can say, okay, do we just want to try that same exact setup again, or do we want to deal out a new set of criteria that we're trying to do? It's just good. It's just so good. It just really improved, and I thought that was brilliant how they did that. So if you like trick-taking at all, you have to try the Crew Mission Deep Sea. You have to. It's amazing. Obviously, Ark Nova. I've only played Ark Nova once, and again, I misinterpreted one of my objective cards, and it's one of those things, right? Like, maybe I should have asked more questions to the person who was teaching me, but I think I didn't want to ask because it was a secret objective, so I didn't want to give away what I was trying to do, but then I interpreted it wrong, which then just tanked my score. But that has nothing to do with how good the game was, and I could easily see how good the game is, and I definitely see why the BGG crowd loves it. It's a beautiful game. There's so many fun combos to explore. There's combos everywhere. There's so many cards and so many different ways to try to go about how you're going to score. Again, this reminds me that I need to get a second play of this in. I need another one to, I really, want to try to do it where I don't absolutely sabotage myself. So this was I was about to say last year, but that's not technically right anymore, is it? 2021. And then, obviously, 2022. Now, you're going to say, James, you got a game on this list. That's why you're doing this. It is part of the reason, being perfectly transparent, it is part of the reason why I was looking at these things. But I've always looked at the BGG rankings in this format well before I had a game in there. Back in the day, when I first busted on the scene, I did some reviews and overviews and top. You can go look at my top. I wonder how many of my games in the top 26. I have a really popular top games of 2016 video that got hundreds of thousands of views. It got picked up by some blogs and got shared everywhere. So it blew up. It's over on the Board Game Spotlight YouTube channel. And 2017 also, it got up there pretty high in the view count too. But I would use BGG to look at the rankings and then like help me compile my list of what have I played, what do I think's great, what does the community think's great from this year, is there anything I'm missing, is there any games that I need to go play before I make mine. That for me it was like, if the community has 3 games in their top 10 that I haven't even played, I need to go play those to see where they might land in my top 10. Otherwise, is my top 10, does it make sense, right? Now, obviously, you can't play every game that comes out in a year. It's not possible. But if there's a game or two that the community has ranked really, really high and say like that top 10 rankings, and you haven't played it at all, like, it kind of makes it tough for you to have an objective list there if you can't even have an opinion on what the community is saying. This is one of the best games of the year. So yes, I've used this system for quite a long time to just look at games and look at rankings, and I think it's interesting. And so obviously I've paid more attention to it this year since Wonderland's War is on the list. But this is where I think you'll see that these 5 games haven't had the same amount of time to get the ranking votes that previous years have. So I think all 5 of these will keep rising in the rankings. And if I were to come back and do this in like 2 or 3 years, I think we would see these much higher. I don't know about how much higher, because you're still, every time you move up at these levels, you're passing phenomenal games, right? Like you're going past really, really good games. So The fifth best game of 2022, according to the BGG rankings, was Heat, Pedal to the Metal. I did get a chance to play this with, I actually played it with Lincoln and Nikki at BGG-Con. And really cool racing game, hand management with the cards, fun mechanic of having to brake as you get into corners so you don't spin out. So it's pretty cool. Nemesis Lockdown, I have my copy, but we have not got around to playing it yet. I'm really looking forward to that because, you know, you've heard me gushing over base Nemesis, so I'm really looking forward to Lockdown. Oathsworn, that's a game that looks phenomenal. I've heard a lot about, but I personally don't know much about. Nobody in my immediate circle has that game, so I'm going to need to go check it out because it feels and looks like my type of thing with the player experience and the incredible art and the crazy high-end premium components. That looks like my type of thing. Wonderland's War. I don't know much about this game. I can barely speak on it. Obviously, I'm an idiot. Love to see that the community has enjoyed the game this much to get the ranking this high. Breaking into the top 300. Breaking the top 500, I think, is a huge... Breaking into the top 1,000 puts you inside of the top 1% of games of all time. So that's huge. Breaking the top 500 is huge. And then this week, I really did celebrate a good bit breaking in the top 300. I'm really excited that people are enjoying what we did to put Wonderland's War together. Especially there was several moments during the development of this game that we weren't sure if this one was going to make it. Was not sure. You know, it had a rough path to the finish line. But I'm so glad that we got there, and I'm glad everybody's really enjoying it. And Carnegie is the #1 game ranking-wise of 2022. I stood over a group at BGG-Con playing it, and as actually my group, we had split off into 2 tables. That table was playing Carnegie. I'm not pronounced. We don't pronounce that right. It's pronounced differently. But I'm just gonna stick with Carnegie because that's what I know. But I need to get it played. It just, it looks like a really phenomenal Euro game. So I want to get that played. And that's the last decade, y'all. Thanks for watching. I don't know. Sometimes I get really excited about just putting content together. I don't have the bandwidth to do it anymore. Not like I used to. But, this was something that I thought, I want to share this. I think it's an interesting conversation to have. It's interesting to think about what could possibly be the best year of board gaming based off of this information. Obviously, there's more things that go into it than that, so this is not some sort of comprehensive declaration of what year I think was the best. 2016 is obviously the best because it has the 5 highest ranked games. That's not the only thing that goes into it, obviously. And that's not a good encapsulation of the entire year because you can't just cherry pick the top 5. You would probably need to look at the top 100 from each year and then maybe do some, like you did. If you were really trying to make that case, you would really want to have to deep dive lots of information. I don't have time for that, but I think from an armchair quarterback shooting from the hip approach, I think you can look at those top 5 and then make some claims. And I do think 2015, 2016, 2017, those 3 years are hard to beat for gaming. They really, really are. So I always say that too, and then look at how many great games come out every year now, and it's not slowing down. So anyway, I hope you found this enjoyable. I hope, you can come into the comments, tell me if you heard me say a game throughout this last decade of these 50 games. 5 times 10. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Let me know which ones I should jump onto. Okay. And then I'll try to prioritize my list of trying to get those played because I think that's important now that I've seen it. I'm like, there's some of those I really, really need to play. I need to play Food Chain Magnate. Just so I can speak on that. Kind of like we were talking about before with if you haven't played that game in that year, but the community said this is a top game, but you've got a top 10, but you haven't played Carnegie, can you really it's a missing piece that you need. So anyway, I need to play those. So let me know in the comments which ones I should definitely prioritize. I appreciate y'all watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you later. Bye, y'all.